You've probably heard whispers about the Maasai drinking blood. Maybe you've seen the images online, read the sensational headlines, or watched documentaries that frame it as some kind of dark ritual. But what if I told you that almost everything the outside world believes about this practice is wrapped in misunderstanding? What if the truth is far more beautiful, complex, and spiritually profound than the rumors suggest? Right now, somewhere in the vast grasslands of Kenya and Tanzania, young Maasai boys are preparing for a ceremony that will transform them into warriors. And at the heart of this transformation lies a practice that has sustained their people for centuries, one that connects them to their cattle in ways most of us can barely comprehend. Before we go deeper, tell me, where are you watching from today, and how are you doing? Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and I love knowing there's a community of truth seekers gathering here. Now, here's what most people think they know. The Maasai drink blood as part of some mysterious, perhaps even savage ritual. The internet loves to sensationalize it. Travel blogs mention it with a mix of fascination and discomfort. Even some documentaries get it wrong, presenting it as a standalone shock factor rather than what it truly is, a deeply meaningful cultural practice woven into the fabric of Maasai identity. But here's the contrarian truth that changes everything. This isn't a ritual at all, at least not in the way we typically understand rituals. It's not about darkness or mystery. It's about sustenance, ceremony, and a spiritual bond between a people and the animals they consider sacred. The Maasai don't just drink blood, they honor it, consume it with reverence, and use it to mark the most important transitions in their lives. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the real story. We'll explore exactly how this practice works, why cattle are considered sacred to the Maasai, what ceremonies actually involve this blood and milk mixture, and what it all means for understanding one of Africa's most iconic cultures. By the end, you'll see the Maasai people and their relationship with their livestock in a completely different light. Let me start with something that might surprise you. The Maasai are semi-nomadic pastoralists, which means their entire way of life revolves around cattle. These aren't just animals to them. Cattle represent wealth, status, survival, and spiritual connection. A Maasai man's identity is often measured by the size of his herd. When a Maasai person looks at their cattle, they're not just seeing livestock, they're seeing their ancestors, their future, their children's inheritance, and their connection to the divine. So when the Maasai consume a mixture of cattle blood and milk, it's not random. It's not cruel. It's a practice born from deep respect and necessity. And here's where it gets really interesting. The way they obtain this blood is actually ingenious and humane. The Maasai use a non-lethal method of bloodletting. A specially made arrow is shot at extremely close range to carefully puncture the cow's jugular vein. The blood flows out and is collected in a calabash gourd. Then, and this is crucial, the wound is immediately sealed with a mixture of ash or dung, allowing the animal to heal completely. The cow walks away, recovers fully, and can be used again months later. The animal is never killed just for its blood. This is sustainable, respectful, and reveals a sophisticated understanding of their animal's biology. Think about that for a moment. How many modern practices can claim such careful balance between human need and animal welfare? The blood itself is rarely consumed alone. It's mixed with fresh milk, creating a nutritious drink that's rich in protein, iron, and essential nutrients. Sometimes butter is added. In some cases, it's diluted with water. This mixture isn't just symbolic, it's practical. In the arid landscapes where the Maasai live, where agriculture is difficult and resources are scarce, this combination provides vital sustenance. Now, here's the question that everyone wants answered. When do they actually consume this mixture? What are these ceremonies everyone talks about? Let me be clear, this isn't something the Maasai do casually or daily. The blood and milk mixture is reserved for significant life events and ceremonies, particularly those marking the transition from boyhood to warriorhood and beyond. The most important of these is called Enkipaata. This ceremony prepares young boys to become warriors, known as Morans. During Enkipaata, boys who have been deemed ready by the community begin their journey into manhood. The consumption of the blood and milk mixture during this time symbolizes their connection to the cattle they'll soon protect, the strength they'll need as warriors, and the continuity of their culture. It's a moment of transformation, witnessed by the entire community. But Enkipaata is just the beginning. There are other ceremonies that follow, each marking a different stage in a Maasai man's life. There's Eunoto, the shaving of the Morans, which happens when warriors are ready to become junior elders. There's Olng'esherr, a meat-eating ceremony that celebrates the transition to elderhood. Each of these involves specific practices, and the blood and milk mixture often plays a role, connecting each generation to the one before it and to the cattle that make their way of life possible. What topic about African culture baffles you the most? Drop it in the comments below, and I'll research it and make a video just for you. Your questions drive the stories I tell. Beyond these male initiation ceremonies, the blood and milk mixture appears in other crucial moments. When a woman gives birth, she's given this mixture to help her regain strength. When someone is sick or weak, the community prepares this drink to aid recovery. At weddings and other celebrations, it's shared as a symbol of blessing and abundance. In every instance, the practice carries meaning far beyond nutrition. It's about community care, spiritual connection, and honoring the animals that sustain them. Let me take you deeper into the symbolism, because this is where the practice becomes truly profound. For the Maasai, blood represents life force itself. It's the essence that flows through both humans and animals. When they consume cattle blood, they're not just taking in nutrients, they're participating in a spiritual exchange. They believe they're connecting to the life force of their cattle, creating a bond that goes beyond the physical. This isn't unlike practices in other cultures around the world. Many traditions use blood symbolically to represent ancestry, heritage, and the continuity of life. The difference is that the Maasai have maintained this practice in its literal, tangible form, while also preserving its deep spiritual meaning. And here's something that often gets overlooked. This practice also reflects the Maasai's incredible environmental wisdom. By using blood as a protein source, they can sustain themselves without constantly slaughtering their cattle. In harsh climates where food is unpredictable, this method allows them to access nutrition while keeping their herds intact and thriving. It's a perfect example of sustainable living developed over centuries of intimate knowledge of their environment. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. In our modern world, with grocery stores and alternative protein sources readily available, why do the Maasai continue this practice? Here's the truth. For many Maasai, especially those who still live traditionally, this isn't about clinging to the past. It's about maintaining their identity, honoring their ancestors, and preserving a way of life that has sustained them for generations. But yes, the practice is changing. As Kenya and Tanzania modernize, as young Maasai people move to cities for education and work, as tourism brings outside influence, some traditions are adapting. Some Maasai communities consume the blood and milk mixture less frequently. Others have stopped entirely. This is the reality of cultural evolution in the 21st century. Yet many Maasai elders worry about what's being lost. They see this practice not as primitive, but as a link to ancestral wisdom, a source of cultural pride, and a symbol of their unique identity in an increasingly homogenized world. When a young warrior drinks the blood and milk mixture during his initiation, he's not just participating in a ceremony, he's declaring that he belongs to something larger than himself, something that stretches back through countless generations. This brings us to an important question. How should outsiders view this practice? The answer isn't as simple as acceptance or rejection. It requires something more nuanced: respect for cultural difference, recognition of the practice's context and meaning, and acknowledgement that what seems unusual to one culture may be sacred to another. If you're finding value in this story, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your subscription means the world to me. This channel is still young and trying to grow, and every subscriber is a vote of support for preserving and sharing these important cultural stories. You're helping keep these narratives alive. The Maasai blood practice also challenges us to think about our own relationships with food and animals. In Western societies, we're often disconnected from the sources of our nutrition. We buy packaged meat without thinking about the animal it came from. We consume dairy products without considering the cows that produce them. The Maasai, by contrast, know every cow in their herd. They name them, care for them, understand their temperaments, and when they take blood, they do so with full awareness of what they're doing and why. There's something profound in that level of connection, something many modern people are actually searching for when they talk about ethical eating, sustainable agriculture, and knowing where their food comes from. The Maasai have been practicing what we might call conscious consumption for centuries. It's also worth noting that scientific studies have examined the nutritional benefits of the blood and milk mixture. Researchers have found that it's indeed highly nutritious, providing essential amino acids, iron, vitamin B12, and other nutrients that are sometimes scarce in the Maasai's traditional environment. The practice isn't just culturally meaningful, it's nutritionally sound, developed through generations of trial, observation, and adaptation to their specific circumstances. But beyond the nutrition, beyond the ceremonies, beyond even the spiritual symbolism, this practice tells us something essential about the Maasai worldview. It reveals a people who see themselves not as separate from nature, but as part of it. Not as conquerors of animals, but as partners with them. Not as consumers who take without thought, but as stewards who understand that every gift requires gratitude and care. When a Maasai warrior drinks the blood and milk mixture, he's participating in a story that began long before he was born and will continue long after he's gone. He's honoring his ancestors who developed this practice. He's connecting with his cattle in the most intimate way possible. He's affirming his identity as Maasai. And he's passing on these values to the next generation, ensuring that the wisdom of his people doesn't disappear in the rush toward modernization. What part of this story did you find most intriguing? Did the non-lethal bloodletting method surprise you? Or was it the deep spiritual connection between the Maasai and their cattle that resonated with you? Maybe it was learning about the specific ceremonies like Enkipaata and how they mark the journey from boyhood to warriorhood. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what struck you most about this practice and why. So here's what we've discovered together today. The Maasai blood practice isn't the mysterious, dark ritual that sensational headlines suggest. It's a carefully developed, spiritually meaningful, and nutritionally practical tradition that reflects the Maasai people's deep respect for their cattle and their sophisticated understanding of sustainable living. We've learned that the blood is obtained through a non-lethal method that allows the animal to heal and continue living. We've seen how it's mixed with milk to create a nutritious drink consumed during important life ceremonies like Enkipaata, Eunoto, and Olng'esherr. We've understood that these ceremonies aren't just about the physical act of consumption, but about marking transitions, honoring ancestors, and maintaining cultural identity. Most importantly, we've recognized that this practice challenges us to look beyond our own cultural assumptions and see the logic, beauty, and wisdom in traditions that might initially seem foreign or strange. The Maasai blood practice reminds us that every culture develops unique ways of surviving and thriving in their environment, and these methods carry layers of meaning that outsiders might easily miss. It teaches us that respect for animal life can take different forms across different cultures. And it shows us that ancient traditions often contain sophisticated knowledge that deserves our attention and understanding rather than our judgment. Next time you hear someone mention the Maasai drinking blood, you'll know the full story. You'll understand that it's not about shock value or primitive practices. It's about a proud people maintaining their connection to their cattle, their ancestors, and their identity in a rapidly changing world. The truth behind the Maasai blood ritual isn't dark or mysterious. It's luminous with meaning, rich with tradition, and deeply human in its desire to honor both the animals that sustain us and the ancestors who taught us how to live in harmony with our environment. Our stories deserve to be told with accuracy and respect. If this story touched your spirit like it did mine, subscribe and keep the wisdom alive. Share this with someone who needs to hear the truth. And remember, these cultural practices aren't relics of the past. They're living traditions carried by real people who deserve our understanding, not our judgment. Thank you for joining me on this journey into Maasai culture. Until next time, keep seeking truth, keep honoring wisdom, and keep these stories alive.